Dum-de-dum-de-dum. And we are recording. Guess what, folks? It's a Sunday. Yes, I think it is. Time for a bit of what's up. Right. Going to get some channel stuff out the way first. This week was the last week that the full reviews are being uploaded to the YouTube channel. I'm going ahead with the plan. I'm going ahead with it. So from next week, this coming week, starting from tomorrow, what you're going to see on the YouTube channel is the partial review uploaded. 9 times out of 10, it's simply going to be the introduction to the review, and then a cut in with me jumping in saying, if you want to watch the rest of this, head over to x.com, formerly Twitter, or head over to rumble.com, and the direct links to the full review videos will be in the description of the introduction video that's going to be here on YouTube. Yeah, I'm going ahead with it. Fuck it. Fuck it. As I said on the UK Vape Show this week, it's not as if I am going to lose anything per se. If someone wants to watch the review, they're going to follow the link, or they're also going to subscribe to me on rumble.com, or they're going to follow me on Twitter. Well, x.com now, it's not Twitter anymore. So I'm not going to lose anything, and the people that won't watch the review simply won't watch it. They won't watch it anyway, even if it was on YouTube. So I'm not losing anything from it. I'm simply not. And Aidan pointed out that there's probably going to be some reviewers following to see what actually happens with the idea that I'm going to be doing for the reviews. But the way I'm looking at it is very, very simple. YouTube is anti-vaping. YouTube's been anti-vaping for a number of years now, and every year, the strikes that they're giving to vaping channels is progressively getting worse. It's progressively getting worse. They even struck Todd. I didn't know about this until a couple of days ago, but Todd, he actually got a strike as well, and I think it's the first time he's ever been struck. First time he got struck as well. And once again, YouTube was absolutely no help to Todd. No help at all. So if they're hitting Todd, and they've never hit him before. I mean, they've hit me every fucking year since about 2020. Every year I've gotten 2 or 3 strikes. But if they're hitting Todd now, they're going after everybody. They're going after everybody. And I, when it comes to this YouTube channel, I would rather have the Vaping with Vic YouTube channel be used for the shorts, for the eSig 101 series, which is going to be kicking off again soon, and for the live shows, and only have the introduction to the review up, rather than have the channel be put at risk because of the reviews. Because if the channel's torn down with a third strike, that's eSig 101 gone, that's the What's Up series gone, that's the live show gone, everything else is affected because of the reviews. So if I take the reviews out of the channel and transplant them to X or Rumble, it means the live shows, eSig 101, and the What's Up will manage to continue going on the YouTube channel, and all I need to do is direct people over to x.com or rumble.com. And it's also not as if I'm going to be losing any money from the advertising, because eSig reviewers get nothing. Literally nothing. You may be seeing adverts running on the What's Up or on the current reviews, but we don't get any of that money now. We don't. It all goes back into YouTube's coffers, because we're constantly getting the gold fucking dollar mark. It's a restricted good you're reviewing, or in my case, supposedly selling. So any adverts that you see running on this channel, I am getting a couple of pennies from it. Literally nothing more than a couple of pennies. And YouTube is taking the bulk and putting it in their own pockets. That's because YouTube's run by a bunch of communist cunts who quite frankly don't care about anything else but their own little woke bubble of woke stupidity, stuck in a corner somewhere in the dark. That's why I'd rather be in x.com or rumble.com. At least those 2 platforms actually believe in free speech. Yeah, simple as that. Rumble.com is much more political driven than YouTube is. You've probably seen that if you've headed over and looked at the front page, because you've got Stephen Crowder over there, you've got the Quartering over there, you've got Tim Pool over there, you've got Dan what the hell's his name? Dan Bongino over there. All the big political commentators have got huge channels over on rumble.com, but if you dig around, it's not just political stuff that you're going to be seeing over there. You're going to be seeing tech reviewers, you're going to be seeing vloggers, you're going to be seeing news channels, actual news channels over there. Rumble's growing. I mean, there's been a few comments that, Rumble's dead, Rumble died. No, it hasn't. Are you fucking stupid? Did you actually bother to go and look at the fucking site before you open your mouth and said, it's not dead. It's nowhere near dead. Nowhere fucking near dead. And if it was dead, why is it the case that some of the big news corporations like CNN have actually tried to sue Rumble out of existence? They failed miserably because the judge threw it out of court, but that actually happened at the very beginning of this year. Rumble was facing a series of lawsuits because a lot of the news media that now control YouTube, and Google for that matter, looked at Rumble and went, hold on a minute, so all these people that we banned over on YouTube and basically told YouTube to ban for us, they've now went to another platform that we don't control. So they tried to sue Rumble out of existence. They failed because the judge threw it out of court. That's why you've got Stephen Crowder over there. It's why you've got Tim Pool over there. It's why you've got Jeremy from the Quartering. It's why you've got Dan Bongino. It's why you've got Patrick Bet David. He's over there as well. There's a whole load of big names over there. And there is no sign at all, zero sign at all, of Rumble even thinking of clamping down on vaping. Zero sign. And it's the same goes for X ever since Elon Musk took the platform over. Zero sign of vaping being clamped down on over on X.com. Over here on YouTube, completely different matter. Completely different matter. YouTube will just simply continue to strike as every year goes on in order to basically push e-cig reviews off of this platform. That's basically what they're doing now. They will just continue to strike. In some cases, they will strike the channel out of existence. That's what happened to Vaping Fagin about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Fagin managed to get the channel back, but they will just continue to harass e-cigarette reviewers on this platform. So it's safer to take the reviews off the platform and keep the YouTube channel for other segments of what Vaping with Vic is all about. So yeah, from next week, the full reviews will no longer be uploaded here. They just won't. They simply won't. Also, I mentioned the UK Vape Show. Yeah, it's back. It's only me and Aidan that's currently hosting it. But yeah, the UK Vape Show is back this coming Thursday, which is... the 19th, yeah, this coming Thursday, which is the 19th, there is going to be a mini box away going on. So there's going to be 4 or 5 boxes filled with e-cig stuff, basically being boxed away to lucky people in the draw from the people in chat. So that's going to be happening this coming Thursday, the 19th, at round about 8, kicking off at round about 8 o'clock in the evening. So it's going to be basically be the Christmas show. It's essentially what it's going to be. Also, eCig 101 is probably going to make a return next weekend. There's still a few more episodes to go of the first block. A lot of them have already been recorded. I just haven't edited them yet. They've been sitting on the fucking hard drive for months now, so they're going to start being re-released, and it's basically a slow return to the usual content for the channel. It's essentially what's going to be happening. Yes. So, before we get into the rest of the what's up, usual setup here. Osiris 25, Q Mini, Black Vine in that. I've got the little Pure Max going, and I've got Drake's Burley Tobacco in there. And, as always, Mike Vape's dual sliding glass door borrow tank on the Vpon Taita X2, peach custard in there, and that's the setups that I'm running right now. It's basically the usual setups that I've been running for a number of months now. So, let's talk what's happening in the e-cigarette sphere here in the UK. Something that nobody's mentioned yet happened, probably because the two companies involved kept it very, very quiet. Very quiet. And I'm surprised they never actually mentioned anything about this in a big, huge, massive press release. Morrisons, the supermarket chain, kind of middle class kind of supermarket. It's not like the cheap stuff like Asda and Lidl. Morrisons is kind of middle class. It's where a lot of the middle classes go to get their supermarket grocery shopping done. Morrisons has teamed up with VPZ. Now, here's the thing. I'm surprised this hasn't happened earlier. I am very surprised this hasn't happened a lot earlier than it actually has. And apparently what VPZ and Morrisons is going to be doing, there's going to be 10 stores. 2 or 3 of them is up here in Scotland, actually, and the rest are scattered all the way down England. And what Morrisons and VPZ are basically going to be doing is Morrisons is going to open up a VPZ shop, a bona fide walk-in shop with the whole fucking VPZ signage going on, staffed by VPZ employees, ran by VPZ head management. But what they're going to be doing is essentially renting shop space in Morrisons. Why hasn't this happened earlier? And more importantly, why is it happening now? Now this got me thinking. There is talk ever since that white paper from Labour dropped about licensing, about the licensing of vape shops, places that sell vaping e-liquids or vaping devices have to be licensed in order for them to actually sell the vaping goods. And then I looked at the supermarket situation. Now, the way that the licensing is set out, what it basically means is each individual premises has to have an individual license. So it's not as if Asda or Morrisons can get one single license and that one license covers the hundreds of stores that they've got up and down the country. No, they need to buy a license for each individual supermarket. Morrisons, like Asda, like Tesco, generally sell starter kits. They generally sell disposables. A lot of them sell e-liquids, and it doesn't matter what you're selling. If you're selling one single range of e-liquid and nothing else, you need to buy a license. If the plans go through, you need to buy a license. Now, Morrisons, Asda, Tesco, they have not got the know-how, they do not have the knowledge, and they probably do not have the time to actually set up a bona fide vape shop in each and every single one of their main large foot traffic stores. So what do Morrisons do? They team up with VPZ. So VPZ can run the shop inside the supermarket, and Morrisons don't have to worry about it. They just get the rental money coming in from VPZ instead. I think that's a win-win, not just for VPZ, but for Morrison shoppers as well. Now, personally, if I was the person over at VPZ coming up with this deal, I would have struck the deal with Aldi or Lidl. Asda's got... not Aldi or Lidl. I mean Aldi or Asda. Or mind you could probably throw Lidl in there as well, but which one of the two's got the biggest reach, Aldi or Lidl? I think it might be Lidl actually, but Asda would need to be in there. Because here's the thing, right? The problem with Morrisons has got a relatively big reach. It's nowhere near as big as Tesco, and it's nowhere near as big as Asda, but they've got a relatively big reach. But the vast bulk of the smokers that are still out there about 6 or 7 million smokers still in the UK. The vast bulk of the smokers that are still out there, they don't shop in Morrisons because Morrisons is too fucking expensive for them. They shop in Aldi, they shop in Lidl, or they shop in Asda. Sometimes Tesco, but they usually shop in the cheaper supermarkets. Morrisons isn't a cheap supermarket, VPZ. I don't know if you fucking know this, but Morrisons is not a cheap supermarket. They're not. I mean, in the town where I live, there's a Morrisons here on the west coast on Irvine, and anytime I'm going past it in the bus, Asda is generally 2 or 3 times busier than the local Morrisons is. It's because it's cheaper. It's cheaper. Now, I don't know if sometime in the past VPZ already tried to get some deal with Asda and it fell through, and instead they went with Morrisons, but I think they would have been a lot better going for basically the working class supermarkets, because the bulk of the smokers that are left that may want to move on to vaping, they don't shop in Morrisons. They don't. They just don't. They shop in Asda, Lidl, or Aldi. That's where they generally go. So, even though VPZ may have picked the wrong supermarket chain, I do hope that it actually works out, because I have got a sneaky suspicion that a lot of this and a lot of the reasons why Morrisons decided to go down this road of teaming up with VPZ is because of the impending possible licensing structure that may be implemented for vape shops selling vape equipment. Because now what it means is Morrisons' head office doesn't have to bother about buying hundreds, because there's about fucking 600, no, it might not be as many as that, 400, 500 Morrisons supermarkets up and down the country. Morrisons' head office no longer need to bother about buying hundreds of licenses for the hundreds of supermarkets that may be selling a couple of ranges of e-liquid. Now, that's VPZ's problem. It's a win-win. It's a win for Morrisons. They don't need to deal with the headache. And it's a win for VPZ because they've got a foothold in a supermarket. Okay, it's a small foothold, but they've got a foothold in a supermarket chain. So it's a win-win for both of them. And I've got a sneaky suspicion that there's probably going to be other supermarket chains out there like Aldi, like Lidl, and like Asda, possibly Tesco as well, that may be keeping an eye on this deal to see how it plays out. I know I would. I know I definitely would. But yeah, that happened last week. Only reason I know about it is because I'm signed up to the press releases that sometimes get released by VPZ. But if you look on the general internet for the UK, it's not been shouted about. It's not as if Morrisons and VPZ made a big deal about this. They really didn't. It was kind of quietly shuffled out on the news with a couple of very quiet press releases and then completely forgotten about. I wouldn't have even known about it if it wasn't for the email from the press release department over at VPZ's headquarters over in Edinburgh. I wouldn't even, or for the people that don't know, VPZ is actually a Scottish company. They're headquartered in Edinburgh, over in the east coast of Scotland. I'm on the west coast. So, yeah. All I can say is, good luck to VPZ and to Morrisons. Hopefully it works out. Second bit of news. Nigel Farage, leader of the Reform Party here in the UK, is in the process of setting up a counterpart to the World Health Organization. Now, I was given a couple of links by Pete from the FV Vape Show, and there was this woke lefty woman that was giving it, oh, fucking Nigel Farage is fascist. Yeah, what the fuck ever, missus, I don't fucking care. Yeah, fucking fascist. Yeah, whatever. The gist of the matter is very simple. If you look at what happened in Asia, large swathes of Asia, Thailand, Singapore, well, not so much Malaysia, but areas surrounding that area, 2 or 3 years ago, vaping was acceptable. More than acceptable. Then the World Health Organization stepped in. And the problem with a lot of these countries in Asia that are poorer, in general, poorer than the Western countries, is they're beholden to what the World Health Organization actually says. More and more countries in Asia are now outright banning vaping. The reason they're outright banning vaping is because a lot of these countries, I think Thailand's one of them from what I remember, along with China for that matter, but they're not banning vaping. But Thailand, Singapore and all that, they're basically on the verge of doing it, if not they've already fucking done it. But a lot of these governments in Asia have done the same trick that China has done. They've literally taken over and bought out private tobacco companies. Push out the vapors, because they can't really take over the big Chinese conglomerates like Aspire, like Vandivape, like Geek Vape. Push out the vapors, ban vaping outright. Those vapors then become smokers, and because the government actually owns the tobacco company, well, the government gets all the money. While at the same time, the World Health Organization, along with Bloomberg, there's that fucking name again, along with Bloomberg, pop up and back up that government's country by saying, oh, vaping's bad. Look at the deaths that happened in the United States, even though that had actually nothing to do with actual legal vape equipment. And the reason those deaths happen is because of the black market and tainted pods that came out filled with acetate. Oiled acetate, which you're not supposed to vape on, but we'll blame the entire vaping industry for it, even though they had nothing to do with it. So you've got Bloomberg and the World Health Organization essentially backing up corrupt governments in Asia to ban vaping, get the vapors back onto smoking, so those same governments can make a fortune from the tobacco sales, which then means, because they're making more money from the sale of actual tobacco, according to World Health Organization rules, they've got to pay more into the World Health Organization. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. The WHO, along with, for that matter, the European Union, was only supposed to be an advisory body. They were supposed to advise countries about what they could do. Advice on what's happening with the latest strain of the bird flu, the avian flu. Advice for what's happening with healthcare problems in Africa. Advice for what's happening with healthcare problems in other areas of the planet, and then advise other countries how those countries can help countries who are not so fortunate than them. That was the original idea of the World Health Organization. And from the 1970s all the way through the 1980s and 1990s, that's what the World Health Organization actually done. They gave advice. They gave advice to governments, like the UK, like the WHO's advice to the Blair government in 1997 when Blair got back in. The WHO's advice on what countries desperately needed medical support is what drove Tony Blair and the Foreign Office to give a little bit more support than normal to certain countries in Africa and lessen the support to India and Pakistan, who at that point in time didn't really need the amount of money they were being given as support, not as much as some countries in Africa needed it. That was the premise of the World Health Organization. They were not set up to lay down laws. They were not set up to become entangled with corrupt governments. They were not set up to become entangled with Bloomberg. They were not set up to dictate health concerns and dictate health terms to governments who were in no position to argue back with them. They were not set up to lobby Western governments on an anti-vaping stance to get rid of the vaping industry. But that is exactly what the World Health Organization has become. And that's why Nigel Farage wants rid of them. That's also why Nigel Farage is setting up a counterpoint to the WHO. It won't be as big as the WHO, but he's already got a lot of renowned physicians and a lot of renowned doctors backing up his idea for a UK-centric health organisation that would be cross-parliamentary across all the seats of Parliament, who would counterpoint the arguments that the WHO is giving. And the best part about this is Farage also mentioned vaping. Now, Farage isn't a regular vaper. He vapes now and again. He still smokes. He freely admits he still smokes, but he vapes now and again. And he mentioned the WHO's anti-vaping stance for no reason, as in the WHO's stance for no reason becoming anti-vaping. There was no scientific backing for the WHO's swift turnaround from supporting vaping to becoming anti-vaping. There was no scientific evidence for the WHO's press releases saying, in some cases, and this is the WHO's own words, vaping is as bad as smoking. That's what some of the WHO board members actually said in 2022. While the Western world was coming out of COVID, a COVID which the WHO refused to believe came from China. Why? Because at that point in time, China was the 50% backer, monetary-wise, of the World Health Organization. And at that point in time, the president of the WHO was very, very, very friendly with Xi Jinping, the president, and the current president for that matter, of the CCP over in China. This is why nobody trusts the WHO, not after the aftermath of COVID. Because what's coming out of the many investigations that's going on over in the United States, what's coming out about how the WHO lied, about how Dr. Fauci lied, about how various governments backed up by the WHO lied. The World Health Organization, their standing is very rocky, but the problem that we've all got is the WHO's power base, including Bloomberg, because they're part of the WHO now. The WHO's power base is so strong that they still hold a lot of sway. Not so much with the Western governments, but they hold a lot of sway with the smaller governments in second and third world countries, in Africa, in Asia. And this is why you're seeing a slow, steady creep of vaping bans happening in the likes of Thailand, in the likes of Singapore. You're seeing that creep slowly spread out. It's because the WHO is pushing the ban narrative. Which leads us back here to the UK. I think you know where I'm going with this. The Tory party, the Conservatives, have always had the stance of being neutral or anti-World Health Organization, especially during Boris Johnson's Prime Ministership of the UK. He was anti-WHO. He always was anti-WHO. But inherently speaking, the Conservative Party are neutral, verging on anti-WHO. This is why, all the way through David Cameron and Nick Clegg's co-premiership, all the way through David Cameron's premiership, all the way through Theresa May's premiership, all the way through the 40 days of Liz Truss's premiership, and all the way through the Boris Johnson premiership, and then all the way through the first half of Rishi Sunak's premiership, for 14 years, the UK did not listen to the WHO. Whereas vast sections of Europe crumbled under pressure from the World Health Organization to do with how to restrict vaping, down to the point that more and more countries in Europe was banning flavours, the UK held firm. For 14 years, the Conservative Party said no. We're not regulating this. We're not. And if it wasn't for the disposable problem, we would still be, well, maybe not because we've got a Labour Party in now, but if it wasn't for the disposable problem, Rishi Sunak would probably have not come up with his tobacco papers, the tobacco regulation paper, because it was the disposable problem that first forced his hand to actually come up with his regulation papers that the Labour Party have basically copied and scribbled Labour Party in pink crayon at the top to make it look as if the Labour Party know what the fuck they're doing, even though they don't. So this is the position that we are now in. We now have a Labour Party in power in the UK. A Labour Party who, you guessed it folks, is in the back pocket of the World Health Organization. They've always been in the back pocket of the World Health Organization, and what's happening now over at the WHO is they're probably thinking they now have a backdoor in to the UK in order to essentially ban this. They're already managing to do it in a lot of countries in the European Union. They're already managing to do it. I think it's Norway, from what I remember. Flavours are now banned. Gone. Just like that. Gone. I think it's Norway, from what I remember. France is heading down that road. Germany is heading down that road. Italy is starting to head down that road. The WHO have their fingers in all the fucking pies. Farage, however, has got other ideas. So I'm going to be leaving a link to the main website for the medical body that's going to be basically counter-arguing what the WHO is doing. I'm going to be leaving a link to that down there in the description. I advise you to go and have a look at it, because some of the names that are rolled off, there is some heavy hitters supporting this. There is definitely some heavy hitters supporting it. Now you're going to get the lunatic left wing, you know, the woke fuckers in their little bubble in the fucking corner, thinking that anyone at all, even a millimetre outside that far left wing bubble, is immediately a fascist. You're going to get all of them screaming at you for looking at this. If you post the link to this thing that Farage is doing, you'll have all the left wing nut jobs see me. Oh, you're supporting a fascist. Just tell them to fuck off. Tell them to fuck off. I'm done dealing with these far left woke blue or purple fucking rinse hair fucking nut jobs. I am done dealing with them now. I'm done dealing with them. Does Farage lean to the right? Yes, he does. He does. Does Keir Starmer lean to the right? Yes, he does. And in fact, in some cases, Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, a supposed left-wing socialist party, is actually further right than Nigel Farage is. But you don't see any of these left-wing wingnuts shouting that from the top of their fucking ivory tower, do you? No, you fucking don't. So yeah, will Farage succeed? Probably not. That he won't have the numbers to make this organisation big enough to completely counteract anything that the World Health Organization is saying. But it would be good to have another medical body backed up by people in the medical industry with their PhDs and their BScs Bachelors of Science, and all those letters after their name. It would be good having an organisation with all these people with letters after their name there to counteract or argue against falsehoods coming from the WHO. And the fact that Farage is in the Houses of Parliament, is the leader of a parliamentary party in the Houses of Parliament, and is giving his backing to this organisation, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. To me, anyway, it's definitely a good thing. And I think that basically covers everything, folks. I think that basically covers everything. There is a lot of things that are going to be happening to this industry in 2025. People like Nigel Farage, to a certain extent, what Morrisons and what VPZ are doing, are laying the groundwork for what could be the foundations of the battlegrounds that we're all going to have to fight in the latter half of 2025 going into 2026. The big question on everybody's lips is what happens over in the United States. Because Trump has already stated several times that he will save the flavours for vaping in the United States. Now, if he was to put out some kind of executive order which ceased the ban of flavoured vapes in the United States, what you will basically see is the largest e-cig market on the planet reopen again. And that will have a ripple effect across the entire planet. Countries who were thinking of banning flavours or who have already banned flavours will look at what the United States done and think, well, hold on a minute, if they're reopening the doors to flavours again, their market's going to become huge. Maybe we should think twice about doing this. That's if Trump actually goes ahead with the promise, because he did state he will save the flavours. He's actually said it. But we can only basically wait and see to see what Trump actually does when he gets into power for his second term as President of the United States. Anyway, that's it from me, folks. As always, thanks for watching and have a good one.